All right. Let's talk about gun violence, gun control laws, how we address gun violence in general. The state of Florida, as you know, in 2018, after the Parkland massacre, had passed a series of laws that raised the age for purchasing a long gun to the age of 21 from 18. It also included red flag laws that have been used more than 8,000 times in the state of Florida to remove weapons from homes from individuals who may be a threat to themselves or others. Do you support this? Would you go farther? Would you repeal any provisions of them? Ms. Hughes.
You know, Greg, as a mom, I said I talk about my son a lot. Of a school-age child, I think about this issue a lot. We in Central Florida have seen the horrific effects of gun violence. And I would say as a gun owner myself, I know that we can protect the right to bear arms while also keeping firearms out of the hands of violent criminals. And I know we can do this because we've already done it in Florida. As you mentioned, after the Parkland shooting, we passed a red flag law. We expanded background checks. We raised the age to purchase a firearm to 21. And I absolutely support these measures. And again, I think this is a really important distinction between my opponent and I, because despite the fact that these laws have already saved lives, my opponent is in favor of repealing them. As a mom, as a parent, we deserve to be able to drop our children off to school in the morning and know that we'll be able to pick them up at the end of the day. That is what I will be fighting for in Tallahassee.
All right, Mr. Banks, and you get an extra 45 seconds on your minute, courtesy of Ms. Hughes. Go ahead.
All right, and I do want to catch just on the tail end of the last question, just to clarify, this Christian nation is the only one of the religions that allows you, permits you, and protects your right to believe or not to believe, to have all freedom of religion. So again, qualifying those statements as forcing religion upon someone, I've never done that because it doesn't even work as a Christian. But moving on to this issue, I think this is one of those things that, again, when there's emotion involved, sometimes reason goes by the wayside. And the bottom line is, and I think for all of us here, we would all say, we want people to be protected. We want our children protected in their schools. We all would agree. So again, diverging on how does that happen? The bottom line is where we have the most liberties, we have the most safety, we have the most not only freedom, but freedom from the most severe of gun violence. Now we have that everywhere. You can't stop human nature. So, we have to address those things, but where these laws are the strictest, we have the highest level of gun violence. Where people have the right to protect themselves in a reasonable manner, we have the lowest level of gun violence. And so based upon that, we have to make sure that we're doing the thing that truly protects people. Being armed as a citizen, as as my opponent said that she is there, that's wonderful, but we can't take away the liberties of those who are wanting to become gun owners. We need to make sure to protect those, and there are just certain laws that would undermine the ability to have privacy. If you look at what happened in Australia, these laws were stair steps to ending up undermining people's personal liberty, and our Second Amendment it should remain inviolate. So we can do this with common sense. No one wants guns in the hands of criminals, but the best way to do that is an armed public that is understandable, is trained in these things.
So to wrap up this discussion, are you okay in your church if people are armed?
We have, again, those who do protect the flock. Yes, there's the biggest issue, and this is you can find this.
Well, what I mean is, if I come to a service at your church and I have a concealed carry permit, is that okay with you?
Well, there's a constitutional right to those things. The bottom line is we see that in Texas, that because that's happened in Texas, in Denver, there are several issues, and these don't get reported, where actually the criminal was stopped because of those who were there prepared and armed. We tell our people that, of course, we will guard and protect. We have protocols in place to make sure that people don't simply wander in that same measure, but we have to protect those rights. And again, the statistics prove that that's where the safest areas are, and criminals specifically go for soft targets, and that's what we found. So this has been minimized when those in these whether it's churches, different places where they are allowed to arm themselves, that the gun violence has been reduced and the loss of life has been reduced.